Hello, everyone. Welcome to What's the Point? I'm Steven, co-founder of First Point, and filling in today for our lovely Hiba Nadim. Today, I am very, very excited because we have someone very special on, someone who I have personally known for almost 2 decades. And we're super, super honored to have this individual with us. A little background, he has a PhD from the Imperial College of London, focused on aerial robotics. In 2016, him and his team at Build Drone were awarded 1 million dirhams by the UAE for participating in what is known as, quote unquote, the World Cup of Drones challenge. He invented the world's first flying 3D printing drone and has been featured on renowned publications like Arabian Business, Forbes, and Entrepreneur Middle East. Today, he is the general manager at Archer, UAE, and part of the board of directors at UAE General Civil Aviation Authority. Dr. Talib Alhinai, it is a great pleasure to have you on, and thank you for sitting with us today. So, you've had such an incredible journey. Did you ever imagine yourself in this position?
So first of all, thank you for having me here. It's my pleasure to be here on this podcast to be hosted with you. No, I think the short answer is no. I think when I was young, I really didn't know what the next 10 years would look like, let alone the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I mean, we've not reached that stage yet, but I've been very fortunate to have worked on really cool stuff in the past 15 years after high school, which is always kind of like the milestone that I saw after continuing. I was really interested in tech from a young age. I remember reading about how in the future you'd be able to 3D print your own food. So this was like 2006, 2007, I'm aging myself here.
It was like first coming out.
Yeah, it's like you'd see like, oh, you'd hear about this, like the next 10 years you'd be able to do this. One thing led to another, I just followed my passion. I decided to do the things that I would really liked. Follow the things I thought, okay, these things sound cool. I would love to do them. I would love to be part of them. And I was very fortunate and blessed that my pathway in life kind of led me to where I am today. I'm very grateful for that.
So I want to take a step back, right? So in my intro, obviously, you're doing so much and we're going to get to that in a little bit, but I want to take a step back. So how did you get into this field? You mentioned you had some interests, before that kind of drew you in. And what was that kind of moment where you were like, okay, this is something I really want to be, not passionate about, but learn more about and maybe earn that passion and take it from there?
Yeah. I think, I would say it started in school, right?
Okay.
I would read about like future technology, how there'll be self-driving cars. And obviously when you think of the future and you think of self-driving cars, there was a movie called I, Robot, if you remember.
Of course, yeah.
With Will Smith.
Yeah.
And they had they had like this really cool concept Audi, and there was the humanoid robot there. Yeah. So I believe the seeds of that were planted there. And then when I went to university, I was originally supposed to study mechanical engineering, because it was kind of like, you hear that it's kind of the engineering discipline that underpins a lot of the other engineering disciplines, kind of like the classical engineering discipline.
Yeah.
But there was this cool discipline also called mechatronic engineering, which was a combination of electrical, mechanical, and also computer science. And the Japanese were the ones that kind of came up with this in the 80s and 90s. So like, okay, our engineers actually need to know a little bit about electrical systems, a little bit about electronics, a little bit about programming, and also mechanical engineering. So think of these people that were like building cars and robots.
Yeah.
So I followed that initially. And when I was doing that in university, drones were becoming a thing.
Yeah, I remember.
And I knew that, I liked research. I wanted to do a PhD. My dad has a PhD, so it's always like a benchmark for Mike to do that. And then I did aerial robotics at Imperial. So I was doing drones essentially, quadcopter drones, and using those to construct things. And we came up with a flying 3D printer. So we invented that at Imperial.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about that. Actually, specifically on the Build Drone project.
Yeah.
So can you tell us more about that? There's this article online that I saw was really cool about how you and the team, I believe they're your classmates at the university, were awarded 1 million dirhams by participating in this challenge. So can you tell us the story there and happen?
Sure. Yeah. So this competition was kind of announced at the government summit in 2014. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, the Vice President of the UAE and the ruler of Dubai, announced that he wanted drones to deliver Emirates IDs to every citizen. And he was announcing this competition called Drones for Good. Drones were becoming very popular. There was a similar hype to what is going on with AI right now. And His Highness, you being the visionary, announced there was going to be a competition. Drones for Good.
Wow.
Drones for
It was open to the public, like anyone can kind of just participate. How many people do you know that were part of this forum?
So in our year, I believe there were more than 1,000 entries from
wow.
more than 160
So you guys
countries.
like one out of all of those participants.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
We were very fortunate to get there. You know, there was 1,000 applications and, you know, we were lucky to have made it to the top 10 in our category. And we presented essentially was a drone that can repair pipeline leaks. So the build drone was the name that we came up with as a team, is that we were working on bio-inspired aerial construction. It's just kind of like the term. And what essentially we wanted to do is essentially have quadcopters, flying robots, come in and be able to build structures. But we wanted them to build in a way that was inspired by nature. So there's this type of bird in Southeast Asia. It's called a edible nest swiftlet, and it actually builds its own nests from its saliva on the vertical cliffs. And
that's beautiful.
Yeah, so like the idea was like, how do I get a drone to do something similar? Can a drone carry all the material it ever needs to build the structure? And following on from there, can a drone 3D print a house? Can a drone 3D print a building? But our application of this competition was, can a drone at least repair a pipeline leak? Right? Can it repair, like, could there be like pipeline with a dangerous chemical like oozing out of it? Can a drone come in and plug that?
Yeah.
So that was our application. And alhamdulillah, we managed to demonstrate this at, live at the time.
Wow.
In 2016. And
it's crazy how like engineering wise and even maybe a bit of architecture wise, a lot of things that we do is based off nature.
Yeah.
Because even, I mean, you're an engineer. And from the media side, a lot of times when we do things with branding or we do things with, an essence for a brand, we look at nature to see, if it's a hospital, look at a logo that represents strength.
Yeah.
And we go into like this kind of deep dive into, okay, what is the strongest leaf or what is the strongest tulip? And, because everything has to have substance. So
the strongest animal.
Yeah, or the strongest animal, exactly. So it's like really cool that, even when it comes to what you're doing as well, you're looking at nature and trying to see, replications or things that you can refer to that, you can build off of. So that's okay. So Forbes mentions that you were the first person to invent the first flying 3D printing drone.
Yeah.
So that is super, super cool. And we'd love to know more about that and know what in there.
Yeah. So I take credit for all of it because we were a team that was doing this. So I was part of a research lab at Imperial College called the Aerial Robotics Lab. And a big principle of this lab was looking at bioinspiration. So what happened here was myself and a couple of students had looked into expanding foam. If you're ever familiar with expanding foam, it's this type of foam that's used in insulation. Yeah. Like some of it comes in a can. So you spray a small amount and then it expands 25 times in volume. Yeah. And we're like, oh, this is really cool because drones can only carry so much, like the weight of an iPhone at the time, right? Yeah. So can we put this on the drone and print something that's 25 times bigger? So what we essentially did, and also we had a 3D printer at our lab at the time. It was called a MakerBot. Wow. So there was this like kit you can order and you'd have your own 3D printer, like a desktop 3D printer. So we had this 3D printer and we had this material and we're like, can we 3D print with the drone? Can a drone be like the CAD? And that way, what you can build is not limited by the size of the printer, because with every printer, you're kind of limited with the bounds of that printer, kind of like the build area of that.
And did this, sorry to cut you off, but did this go into production? Is this something that, industrial companies like started to use, or what was that like?
Yeah. So quite, I mean, the flying 3D printer. So we essentially we created, like invented the mechanism to take two parts of a liquid, mix them together on board the aircraft, or on board the drone, sorry. And the idea is that the drone would then come in and like fly or hover over somewhere and deposit this material. And within like 5 minutes, this material would have already expanded and hardened, and you can do this like a limited number of times, call it 10, 20,
Yeah.
50, 100, however much you needed, and you'd build up and you'd create this. So what we essentially did is created this first concept that a drone can carry its own material, and this material can be used, and it can build layer by layer, similar to how a normal 3D printer works. It can build a structure much larger than itself.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate that this got displayed in the Science Museum in London. So there was a 3D printing exhibition for 6 months, and they put this drone there. It was actually really quite cool
Yeah.
to see it there.
Very cool. Okay, so I want to pivot. I see you're wearing the Archer pin.
Yeah.
And I have been watching a lot of the stuff, developments from Archer. And I was really, really excited to see that you have joined. And you're the general manager now at Archer. I know what Archer's doing, but can you please tell the audience a bit of background about Archer? What's the company specifically doing in the UAE? Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so Archer is a company that is designing and developing electrical vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. So it is building electric aircraft that are capable of taking off and landing vertically, similar to a helicopter does.
Wow.
So this is a manned aircraft. This is a piloted aircraft. It has a pilot and 4 passengers. It has a wing, and it is able to fly for about 150 kilometers in range. So more than the distance between Abu Dhabi to Dubai, point to point. It is able to do that distance in about half an hour, just under half an hour, and it's about to fly that to 240 kilometers per hour.
And Archer is based in the US, right?
Yes.
It's based in the US. And will this be their first go-to market in terms of project, or have they infiltrated other markets?
Yeah. So Archer is a California-based company founded in 2018, and currently in the final stages of getting an aircraft certified to be able to fly. The UAE, and particularly Abu Dhabi, is going to be the first launch market for Archer.
Wow.
This is something we're all very excited about.
That's a huge accomplishment. Really, that's a huge accomplishment. I mean, not just for Archer. I mean, for also, the UAE to have such a big initiative launching here in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Do we know when this rollout plan is meant to, or is that still kind of being discussed?
Yeah, so it's coming in a matter of months, not years.
Months.
It's coming in a matter of months.
Wow.
Yeah,
Did
not
you hear
years.
that?
Yeah.
Months. We're gonna have flying taxis, specifically in Abu Dhabi, I believe, right?
Yeah, specifically in Abu Dhabi first, but expanding elsewhere in the country and across the world, hopefully soon after that.
Wow, that's incredible. And then in terms of the usability model, is it going to be open to the public? Is it going to be something that's privately hired?
Yeah.
How does that look? It's like Uber. Can I just whip out my phone and kind of hail an Archer? How does that?
Yeah. So the mission of the company is to replace 60 to 90-minute car journeys with 10 to 20-minute flights, and one of the main drivers of that mission is that the cities that we live in today are expanding, right? So if you look at the world's population today, 50% of the world's population lives in cities. By 2050, more than 2/3 of the world's population is going to live in cities. So our cities are expanding rapidly in terms of population, but they're not expanding fast enough in terms of transportation. Population just outpaces usually the infrastructure growth. What we wanted to do is unlock that third dimension, which is unlock the air. And we want to enable more people to have access to urban air travel, whereas currently people use helicopters, but it's only like a small minority of people that use that, usually very senior, like business travelers or government or the military.
Executives.
So what we want to do is kind of open up air travel for more people.
Nice. Okay. And then in terms of, if we're looking at Archer in Abu Dhabi, are there, designated places that people can go to, people can see the aircraft, are there places in Abu Dhabi where have taken over, or how does that, or is it in an airport? How does that look?
So we're going to announce the launch network very soon.
Okay.
Which is going to be where you're going to be able to take the aircraft, or you're able to take it from and to. So that's coming very soon. But you can imagine that these places would hotspots currently of transportation. We're kind of following hotspots, where are people going in car journeys to and from, and mapping that and understanding where does the demand lie, where the journey start and end, and what is the existing infrastructure around where we can put a vertiport that we can use to take off.
Yeah, that's so cool. I can't wait. It's super exciting.
Yeah.
And make sure, is there anywhere people can get more information? Is there a website or a place that people can see, more information about Archer and some of the things that you're discussing?
Yeah, so you can go to archer.com, or you can also go on our Instagram pages like Fly Archer or our LinkedIn page. We generally post a lot of updates there multiple times a week.
Nice.
So everyone
Perfect.
can follow there.
And we're going to link some of that information in our description and bio so people can go and take a look. Very basic question. What makes the air taxis different than like a just standard helicopter?
Yeah. So helicopters have been around for many now, more than 60 years and even more. And helicopters today differ in terms of three main factors, which are their noise, their perception of safety, and their cost. So when you look at helicopters today, they're noisy. There are many cities around the world that ban where helicopters are able to go or what times helicopters can operate or where they can specifically fly over. There's a negative perception of safety, particularly in places like the US. There's been high-profile incidents.
Yeah, just recently as well. Yeah,
recently, very unfortunate
tragic
incidents and tragic incidents, especially like the incident with Kobe Bryant as well.
Yeah,
and there last year the incident with the Iranian president as well.
Yeah,
so there's a negative perception on safety.
And then with recently with the the Spanish exec, and the
executive,
Seaman executive in New York, very tragic. So it just seems like it's becoming, you're right. This, the perception of flying in a helicopter doesn't seem too positive, because there's been a lot of, like you said, accidents in the recent years, and it's becoming a bit more common.
Yeah. So a lot of it is fueled by perception. I mean, there generally, there's a lot of safety in aviation in general, but it's just this perception that's them as well.
Yeah. And the air taxis are fully electric, I believe, right?
Yes. So Archer is developing fully electric aircraft.
That's incredible.
Powered by lithium-ion batteries.
Wow. So in terms of sustainability, I mean, it checks off all the boxes. If it's a full EV, then that's good for the environment, right?
Yeah, definitely. Some people call it the Tesla of the sky, right? In terms of being a fully electric vehicle, and it's not much different than that. There is piloted flights yet, so it's a manned aircraft. That's what we tell.
Okay.
What we tell people.
Yeah. Baby steps.
But it's going to be actually very cool to fly. So it's not going to be like a normal fixed wing aircraft or a rotary wing aircraft like a helicopter. It's actually very easy to fly. It's almost like flying a drone. Right, if you've ever flown a drone, you've got two joysticks. It's very similar to that.
Wow.
I've been on the simulator. We think like it'll take people 5 minutes to really get the hang of it, and it's going to be quite cool today.
So, Marathi, you've obviously accomplished so much. Someone young might be watching, someone in high school, someone starting in college. What should the next generation look for in terms of inspiration? What advice would you give the youth, especially within our community, to pursue a career like you did, and specifically what you're doing?
Yeah, I would really encourage the youth to kind of like follow their curiosity. I'm really speaking of my experience. Follow their curiosities. Take enough time to really understand where their interests lie, what they would like to follow, and to put a lot of emphasis on getting the right education, being around the right people, being in the right environments where you're pushing yourselves, because ultimately you're a product of the environment that you're in.
I'm such a big advocate of this. The environment that you're in can literally make it or break it, because if you're around inspiration, if you're around people that motivate you, if you're around people that know what they're talking about, that's something I learned, when I was in college, when I was hanging out with people, like you and other people that inspired me. I always would tell myself, you always want to be around people that are adding value, right? Yeah. It's good to have fun and everything, but I think the environment point is super, super crucial.
100%. Yeah, you're an outcome of your
and what's next for Archer specifically? What if in a couple months exciting news happens, you're fully launched and ready to take on traffic, what's next? What's in the pipeline?
Yeah, we're gearing up for our UAE launch. That's where the majority of my focus lies right now, and the focus of the company as well. So we're going to be bringing in an aircraft later this year. So around the summertime, we're going to be bringing an aircraft here. We're going to be doing piloted flights or experimental flights, and then slowly transitioning into the like launching with passengers, which we're all very excited about. So a lot of our focus right now is on getting ourselves ready for that, and
Nice.
working with the different partners in the ecosystem to do that.
Amazing. And for our listeners, so you mentioned the website that they
Yeah.
can go check out. We're gonna link the Archer socials as well in our description, and in the caption. Closing remarks. What would you like to leave us with? Is there any interesting point of view you want to give us on Archer, and we'll take it from there? Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I really want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to come here. And I think, I'm very fortunate in the place where I'm in right now, where I get to at a cool company like Archer,
Yeah.
who's pushing in the next generation of aviation. There's not many companies in the world on electric aviation. It is a challenge with a lot of different problems that you have to solve on multiple fronts. But we're fortunate to be in the UAE. We're fortunate that the leadership of the UAE is very open to this technology.
Yeah.
That there is strong leadership support. There's strong government support, regulator support to allow us to work with us to have these flights safely operate in the UAE, as well as having a lot of excitement from the community, from the individuals like yourself. It is something that's very hard. Every day there's a lot of challenges that we face that we have to overcome. But seeing people very excited about this really propels us to move forward. And if anything, that's what really motivates us. That's what really motivates me, is to bring in this new form of urban transportation to people, have it to be accessible, let people get from their destinations, from their home to their workplace or to their hotel very quickly, so that they can really save on time that they would spend with their family and with their loved ones, and ultimately also get to see some really cool views of the UAE, of the coastline of Abu Dhabi.
Well, we have a passion, and this is super, super exciting, and I completely agree. I think the UAE pushes for innovation, pushes for advancement, whether it's in transportation or AI or technology, and we're very, very blessed that they support all of these initiatives. And once again, I really want to thank you, Dr. Talib, for sitting down with us here on What's the Point. We're super excited again to show the world Archer and all of the cool things that are going to come to our community. And like I said, we're going to drop all the information for Archer in the description, in the comments. So be sure to go check out, stay up to date with the latest. And we look forward to hopefully having you back on once you're officially launched, and you can give us an update there.
Inshallah, looking forward to welcoming you on board, and everyone listening and watching.
Perfect. All right. So that's it, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you later.